Steve Sachs, welcome to our second video podcast of the Gray Devils that we call A Touch of Gray. We're going to do things a little bit different than we did with Tim Knowles in episode 1, and that's we're going to kick it over to you to give a little bit of background and bio on yourself. So name, rank, and serial number. What do people need to know about Steve Sachs?
I graduated from Duke 1969 with a major in history. I was in a couple, we don't have to go in a couple honorary leadership organizations. I later got a master's liberal arts at Johns Hopkins. About 7 or 8 years later, I played soccer. Didn't play one sport back then. I played soccer 65 through 67 for Coach Skinner. I was lacrosse 66 through 69. I was the captain in 69, third team All-American 68 and 69. And though most of my teammates never thought I had assists, I had 101 goals and 108 assists, which still ranks 50 some years later in the top 15 of Duke. We helped the team return to varsity status in 1960 and 67. When I came there, I had no idea it was a club team. I was this kid going to go to college, and I had been recruited by Brown University by Coach Stevenson up there, and I actually went up there, and the reason I went to Duke versus Brown was pretty simple. We got a scholarship. When I was in public school in this boys club, we played this private school, and I thought I can do better than what I'm doing in the public school. And I went to my mom and said, could you go out and see if I could get some type of student athlete? And they gave me a scholarship, which I paid back many times. So, and that was one of the reasons I didn't go to Brown. I did go to Duke. When we went to Brown, they wanted me to come, but they couldn't give me money. My dad, we had a little pharmacy in Baltimore, not wealthy, but not enough under the Princeton rules or whatever evaluation to get any money. And my mom was mad at that because I got this money to go to this really nice private school in Baltimore, and I couldn't get it down there. And so it dropped, and we went down to Duke. I saw the chapel. And I always tell people, they say, freshmen are always looking up at the chapel, and I'm still a freshman. So I fell in love with the university. Had a great coach in Roy Skinner, and we helped the team return to varsity status in 1967, the year after I got there. They hadn't won a game for 2 or 3 years before I got there, and Persons was still the coach my freshman year. But Coach Skinner was really starting to run things, and he was a great influence on me and a bunch of guys that played for him. And he turned that program around with not a lot of great lacrosse players or athletes, but it was a great group of people that I'm very close with to this day.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a good segue into the next question, which is, what was the most memorable highlight of your time playing lacrosse at Duke?
Probably beating Carolina in my sophomore year. I think we beat them in my freshman year, but it was a mixed up team that they put on the field. The sophomore year, we beat them bad. And that was the first time Duke had beaten Carolina in a long time. And that was really felt good. By my low point would be my senior, my last game. We lost to them in overtime, and I had a really good game. And I'm still friendly with the guys at Carolina that I played against. They had a really good team that year: Harper Peterson, Peter Kramer, some All-Americans. And we lost in my senior year. I think we lost 3 games to Loyola and Carolina in overtime, and to Fairleigh Dickinson by a goal.
Yeah.
Difference between a great season and a good season. So
that's a name you don't hear in lacrosse much anymore, is Fairleigh Dickinson, huh?
I don't hear much, but I just had my tooth pulled out by a dentist who played for them.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, he played for them on a scholarship in the game. We lost 6-5. I could tell a lot of stories about that game, but it's a small world.
Yeah. Lacrosse is. Next question. What was the greatest lesson learned and carried forward from your time at Duke?
I go back to Coach Skinner. we just went back and celebrated his 90th birthday. We
Yeah.
were for the Syracuse game. 10 people from across the country. 5 of the 7 captains that played under him were there, and he never said a damn word. I can't remember him speaking much, but he had a significant influence on us. And I thought about that often. And about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, he had asked me to pull everybody together, and we had 40 people gather at Waduke during COVID, which was something in itself, and had a wonderful evening that we had the sports division to do. Sports people do actually the hour and 57-minute tape. And it's absolutely, I've watched it a couple of times. But what number of people, because he didn't talk to us much, kept saying is that what we learned, that we do sprints after practice. I'm sure you all did sprints, but we did a lot of things where we had a lot of kids that hadn't played, but they were good athletes. We had football players come over, and we ended up becoming a decent team and winning a lot of games. And we sort of, how did that all happen? Well, I think when we do those sprints after practice or run the cross country in the first couple weeks after practice, what we learned was that we always had something left. I remember a couple of the doctors said, 3 a.m, you're called in to do surgery. From lacrosse, you knew you had something left. You knew you had values and that fortitude to make things happen, no matter how tired you were, and that you could be focused on what you needed to do. And I think that and being true to yourself. Yeah. And being honest with yourself in terms of what you need to do and taking responsibility for what you do and what you don't do. And those are great. That's why sports are great lessons, because you learn the things that make you successful in life.
Yeah, great lessons, great Duke man characteristics, right? Next question. What did the years after graduating from Duke hold for you, and how have you applied your Duke experience throughout your life?
I after Duke, I owed money. My father got really sick my senior year, and my mom didn't have any money to pay for me. So I went to Coach Skinner. I greeted visiting teams at Card Gymnasium, which was an easy job because nobody wanted to stay in Card Gymnasium. And I worked at the Fox and Saddle restaurant. I didn't play soccer that year because I needed to work and get money. But I think, what I learned a couple of things from that experience. One was the value of my education. And I actually wish I had my sophomore year back, when I had a really great freshman year and I got full of myself and didn't study as hard. My junior and senior year, I had an appreciation for the education that I got. And so after Duke, I went and I needed a job, and I applied to some agency, and I ended up having an interview with the Hartford Insurance Group. Mm-hmm. And I remember going in there thinking, there's not a lot of people that really I think are sharp here. I might do well. And I started in the insurance business, and being a Baltimore guy, I worked there a couple of years, and I got hired by the Rouse Company, who was a real estate developer, and they had a little insurance agency. Jim Rouse had started as a mortgage banker, but they had no risk management. So I got in there and I started looking at things, and I went to management. I said, I think you should be doing things differently in how you buy insurance. And they said, well, if it makes sense, why don't you work on that? Yeah. And it was like a sandbox to work in, and I grew and I developed relationships with the C-suite. And after 12 years, our division was spun off to Payne Weber. I went through, I won't go into all the detail, but I went through 6 or 7 more mergers and acquisitions. But even after I was spun off, they wanted me to do the risk management work. So I did that as an employee for 12, and for 30, another 19 years. Yeah. And became a business person. Yeah. I was very involved in the community, and I ended up, I won't go all through the 6 mergers, but I ended up my last 10 years with Willis Towers Watson, which at the time was the 3rd largest broker in the world. So I went from 7 people at Rouse Insurance to 80,000 people, and I ran the real estate, hotel, and gaming industry. Was a vertical sector in North America. It was about $100 million business, and I ran that my last 10 years, and didn't retire till I was 70.
Yeah.
So,
Wonderful.
it was good. It was good.
Yeah. Let's pivot to teammates and alumni. So why are your Duke lacrosse teammates and alumni lacrosse connections important to you? And how did you maintain those bonds over the course of time?
Well, I'll start with what I tell anybody who's going to college. I said, you're going to go to whether it's Penn State or St. Mary's in Maryland, which is a really small school, you're going to go 10 or 15 people. And it's going to be determined by where you live, what you study in, or if you play sports, you're just going to know those people because that's what you do. More so today than it was when I played there, but I played soccer and lacrosse. Lacrosse was what I loved. So I became really, really friends with a lot of players, and actually even after I graduated, became closer friends with people that I wasn't so close with when I was playing. It's pretty amazing. My co-captain is so different from me. He was a Navy ROTC, went in the Marines, had two things in Vietnam, something he doesn't talk about. He lives on the West Coast now, but we've remained close, and we're as different as can be. We just remain close. Our goalie, Tommy Parrott's one of my best friends. I mean, we've just kept together, and we actually funded a $250,000, I think over $250,000 to create a scholarship for Coach Skinner about 7-8 years ago, which was something that was important to us. And even people that you weren't close to on the team, you had that shared experience that after college, I'm close friends with people that I played with that I wasn't close friends with when I played.
Yeah.
And it's because we shared so many things. And I think most of us have been, I shouldn't say most of us, I'll say all of us have been successful in a variety of different ways, not just in business and financial success, but by being involved in things within our community and being leaders. And I don't think, you can't put into a box that, I'm going to be a leader in lacrosse or I'm going to do this and that, but that's it. It's really everything that you look at from a perspective, can I make a difference? And I think Duke has, enabled us to do that. And, those of us, we lived through lacrosse, the scandal. We looked at Danowski coming in and how great he's been. And even when we tried to help him raise money, we did the coaches thing a number of years back. It took him to a place where he realized what he had to organize. And I think he's figured out that he had to do a lot of the things, not the same, but similar to what Mike Murphy was doing at Penn, in order to create his own structure, his own organization, rather than looking at who wasn't doing what, but to figure that he needed to control that piece. And it's been actually great to watch. We raised $1 million this year. And I think, Coach D is a great coach, but he's an astute understander of people and how to do things. And pretty neat that we were, through all the crap that we went through, that we were able to have someone who's made such a difference to the players and to Duke.
Yeah, here. I agree. So it's story time now. What's the story that never grows old when you and your teammates reunite?
Well, I think it must be my sophomore, maybe it was junior year. Coach Skinner told us that we're going to have a great spring break. We're going to go to Florida. And so we got on a Trailways bus, and it was a 14-hour drive from Durham to Boca Raton. And I love watching Florida Atlantic this year because we played on Boca Raton right when they were being founded. It was on an airstrip. And we'd go down there. We played 2-a-day practices, run sprints 2-a-day. I think we played Villanova down there. We played Cornell, who beat our tails. It was Ned Harkness was there. I scored a goal on Butch Hilliard. I think it went so slow he strained his neck as it went past him. And we played Air Force down there. But it was interesting in terms of team building. The joke was we always said, Coach Skinner, when are we going to see the beach? And I think it was my senior year. He got on the trail he's bus. He had him take us to the beach, and he said, "Okay, everybody out. You got 5 minutes. This is the beach." So those trips were they were actually good for us. Well, the one year I remember we got down there. We got down there 6:30, 7:30 in the morning. Of course, we couldn't get in the hotel, so we went right to practice. So, but I think everybody who did that remembers it very well.
Yeah,
though
good
not as fondly as you might expect.
Next question. What support and advice do you have to offer members of the Duke Gray Devils lacrosse network, whether they're just graduating or they're enjoying the privileges of retirement?
I think is always for me is to be thankful for what we have, to be thankful for the opportunities to play a great game. Lacrosse is just the greatest game I've ever played. And I played 3 sports in high school, but lacrosse just is the best. And to be true to just being, I had a guy, one of my CEOs, when I was having a situation with a guy I reported to at the time. And, we talked about integrity is right down the center of the road. And it's not a degree to the left or a degree to the right. It's down the center of the road. And a lot of things I take from Coach K is move on. Mm-hmm. And I try to tell all the time, it's a waste of time to try to figure out. There are always some things to learn, but it's more important to move on to what you need to do. And I think that's what successful people do, because it's a waste of energy and other people's time to be looking back, pointing fingers. Guy in an HR at Rouse Company, who I became friends with, used to always say, when you point a finger, 3 come back at you. And the other thing he said, when you sit around a mud hole, when someone throws a big rock into it, everybody gets covered with mud.
Yeah, yeah.
So leaders need to lead and to give credit to those who, and understand, you're not good at everything. You need to understand what you're good at and understand how to put teams together. I remember a couple of books, Good to Great. And if you combine that with a book on the Gallup put together, Building on Strengths, that a lot of companies waste a lot of time trying to build on people's weaknesses, and it's a waste of money. And rather than getting the right people on the bus with the right different characteristics, so you have a team. And that's what lacrosse is about. Not everybody's a star, but everybody's important to what they do. And
well said.
That's what life is.
Yeah, well said. Well said. So we're about to, in the lead up to this, you were talking about heading off to the Naval Academy's home field.
No, we're going up to Albany.
I'm sorry, you're going all the way to Albany to watch Duke and Delaware, then, right? Or Duke and Michigan.
Duke and Michigan and UVA and
Georgetown.
Georgetown. Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 great matchups. So obviously the Blue Devils are past round 1 and on to the quarterfinals against Michigan. What are you enjoying most about this 2023 team?
Wow. One, their youth. We've got senior people. We have a lot of young players on that team. And I think this team reflects Danowski's continued growth and how he's recruiting and what he's done in terms of how he's recruiting from midfields. Is really interesting. And McAdory, I was at the scholarship thing and I said to him, "Hey, you're a midfielder. You're going to be a great attack, besides the fact you're faster than anyone I know. But you have your head up." And one of the because I was an attackman, but I started as a midfielder. And I knew as a midfielder to keep my head up because I knew people were always open. And too often in high school, I saw attackmen with their head down and people open outside screaming for the ball. So I'm optimistic. I think anybody can win at any game. All these teams are at this level are really, really good. But I think that Duke has the shakes out. And that was the first half of that game. I think you had a lot of kids with a lot of pressure on them that we didn't play last year in it. We've lost a couple games to Virginia that, I guess Yale and Virginia that we perhaps should have won. Not Yale, but Virginia, certainly. I hope we don't see Virginia again, because I think it'll be hard to beat them 3 times in a row. But every team up there is really, really good. You've got, I'm not going to see, unless hopefully I get to Philadelphia because we win. But you've got, Army's coach is a Dookie. DeLuca was a Duke. There's a lot of great stories here, but the games I just watch on my computer. I don't get ESPNU where I live, but I watch it on Watch. And great lacrosse games. Love watching Michigan play, and look forward to beating them. But very impressed with them, and I'm going to meet two of my. Malcolm Travelstead, who was captain in '68, and Ben Guckenberger was captain in '67. We're going to meet up there. Malcolm lives up north of Albany in the Hudson Valley, so it's going to be fun. It'll be fun.
Yeah, no doubt.
Come back with a win.
Well, Steve, really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to talk with me, and hope that your teammates are able to see this and brings a smile to their face. I've enjoyed hearing more about your background. We've known each other through the Gray Devils really since inception, and it's been a fun run. And we keep getting extra days, which are a gift to continue to be a part of this small world of lacrosse.
I should follow with one last thing, because the thing I remember most about meeting you, Mike, was the first time you were given a check from the Gray Devils to Nowski, and you did the quote, and I've got it written down, but and it was in the book.
Right.
It's such a great story about the people that come before us, and we need to value what they've done before us and realize the responsibility we have to move it forward. And you could say more eloquently the quote, but that's what the gist of it is. And that's sort of a lot of the gist of what life should be if we could get ourselves and the country figured out.
Yeah, we build on the foundations that were laid by others. And I appreciate the foundation that you laid for, the next generation all the way up to mine. And I hope that we contributed to the ones that followed, and the guys that are doing it today that get a chance to keep playing this game. No doubt we'll be building something special for folks that'll be way out there in the future. It's a great legacy.
Absolutely. Thank you.